What's up, South Jersey football fans? It's Kevin Emmons here with D2 Sports Network. Here with my good friend Chris Baker. We got Roderick Wood on the production. We're here to introduce a new show to you called By the Numbers, where we go through South Jersey football. We talk about key numbers, cool stats, a lot of different interesting things that you might not know or might not see on the surface. We do a little bit of digging, try to find some creative things to give you guys a fun side of South Jersey football. This week, with our first show, it's a new season. Season obviously less than 48 hours away. We just want to, kind of get you guys back into the swing of things, talk about some big games this weekend, and kind of go through the divisions and whatnot and prepare you guys for the upcoming season. And as we said, by the numbers, throw some numbers at you from last year to get you ready for this year. So, Chris, it's always a pleasure to be here with you and talk football, man. What's going on? How you been?
Same old stuff, man. Obviously, just, working and waiting for the season to get ready. Out at the beach. Thursday kicks off the season, and, I'm just ready for the start, man. It's been the dog days of summer. It's truly been the dog days of summer because, you're looking for me personally, look for feature stories and stuff like that, and it's just been like, man, I need the season to start now.
Absolutely. Football is my favorite sport to cover. It's where I got my start. A lot of people see me as like a basketball guy. I played basketball and baseball. Football will always be, my first love when it comes to covering sports. So let's just get right into it. Obviously, the big thing on the schedule the past couple of years is, the West Jersey Football Coaches Association's Battle at the Beach starts at Ocean City. The past couple of years, it's, moved around second and third day. This year, the second and third day will be at Rowan. But obviously, two big marquee matchups that first day, and obviously a lot of other good matchups. So kind of just take us through that and, mention some of those big matchups we got coming up.
Yeah, so obviously to kick the season off, we got Northern Highlands and Holy Spirit. That should be a pretty good one. After that, we've got Oak Crest and Ocean City. After that, we will have Bergen Catholic and East St. Louis. And then to cap the night off, we will have Winslow and IMG Academy. Then Friday, we got the starter, which will be West Defford and Kip Cooper Norcross Academy. Then we have Hillsborough and Washington Township. Then we have a big break in between because it's Rowan Move-In Day. So we got a big break in between. And then we will cap the night with, that is, Millville and Rancocas Valley. Saturday, we got a pretty good start as well. Same matchup as last year, Highland versus Southern. Then we'll move into Bridgeton and Delran, which should be a pretty good one in my eyes. Then we got some two possible shootouts here as well. We got Old Bridge and Cedar Creek. And we've got Haddonfield and Glassboro.
So a pretty good slate this year. And obviously, as you said, between two different locations for fans who want to go check it out. Ocean City, right down the boardwalk, and Rowan University. Let's talk about that first day. Bergen Catholic, number one team in New Jersey. East St. Louis, number one team in Illinois, coached by Darren Sunkett, who is a Camden native, or at least is from Camden. That's a team you've seen last year over in Pennsylvania. Just kind of talk about what you've seen last year from them and what you know about that program.
Yeah, I saw them last year against Imhotep over at the Germantown Super Site. I'm pretty sure Imhotep at the time had one of the top edge rushers in the nation who was coming to Ohio State. And East St. Louis, the game plan at least, it wasn't really kind of run away from him. It was trying to neutralize him from, making those plays. Sometimes they ran at him with a double team. Sometimes they'd go with plays away. Sometimes they'd just try and pass the ball in the quick little passes. And obviously, they're led by their Indiana recruit, Cortez Rupert, and that kid's good. That kid's real good. So I'm looking forward to seeing him with a matchup with as a UNC fan, it's pretty cool to see the kid Xavier Jackson, who's a South Jersey kid at Bergen Catholic. That's be a pretty good matchup in the secondary.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, that we get to see, number one team in New Jersey versus number one team in Illinois, because you see all these. This is the time of year where at least a couple weeks ago, you see those rankings on where they're ranking, what states are the best at football and stuff like that. So this gives us an opportunity to see, okay, what's the number one team in Illinois versus the number one team in New Jersey look like? And how, we're from New Jersey, so, New Jersey people always want to have the bragging rights and prove that this state is, marquee when it comes to football. And, I've talked to plenty of guys, in the preseason, players and whatnot, are like, I think New Jersey football is a little overlooked. So this would be a good challenge for Bergen Catholic, who played IMG Academy last year at the Battle of the Beach and held their own and, showed out, had a pretty good showing against a national program like that, and obviously went on to, breeze through the competition in New Jersey following that game. And speaking of which, IMG Academy coming up to New Jersey to play Winslow Township, defending undefeated Group 4 state champion. And that's a huge matchup and a great opportunity for Winslow.
Yeah. I saw a tweet the other day. I forget who it was from, but it said that if you're from South Jersey and you feel that South Jersey's been disrespected, media-wise, rankings-wise, nationally, whatever it is, you should be rooting for Winslow. I mean, you can't say that any better. I mean, this is the biggest stage. IMG Academy, national brand, sometimes maybe even global brand too. I mean, obviously you think, they're bringing kids in from, all over the world pretty much sometimes, depending on the positions in sports. So they're almost like a global brand. And they're coming here to play Winslow. Winslow about 40, 50 minutes maybe from Ocean City, two different sides of the state there. So, it's a national stage, and I think Winslow could. I think they have a chance to rise up to the occasion possibly.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for Winslow. I don't see it as an opportunity where anything could go bad. I think it's a low risk, high reward situation. You get an opportunity to play on a national stage against a great program at a beautiful facility, and Winslow's a team that's loaded with Division I talent. And me and Rick were out there last week for a practice. If you guys want to go over to our website, d2sportsnetwork.com, and check out the story that I wrote on Winslow, just preparing for this moment, preparing for IMG Academy, you can go check that out on our site. And just talking to Coach Bill Belton about the opportunity, he said, look, we got guys who are being recruited, guys who feel they should be recruited. He said it's a great opportunity to give our players this platform to where they can compete against IMG Academy, one of the best in the country. And to spin back on the point about how I see it as a low-risk, high-reward situation, hypothetically, say Winslow goes in there and they don't necessarily perform well, or they lose by a couple possessions, and obviously that's not their intention. They're going in there with the intent and the preparation, being prepared to win. But even in, say, a situation like that, for us, us watching it from a third-person point of view, at the end of the day, they still got to compete on that national stage. They had that opportunity to get film against a great program, and as it's been emphasized, have their players be seen. You're 14-0 last year. You are Group 4 state champion. You bring a lot of guys back with those same aspirations. There's no better way to start the season than playing a team like IMG Academy.
And let me just jump in real quick. Just one of the things that I was thinking about when we were talking to Bill Belton about his team was the fact that they feel like they can compete. Obviously you have your concerns when you're talking about the O-line and D-line, things like that. But as far as skill guys around the board, he definitely feels like they have an opportunity to compete. And if they just kind of stay away from the turnovers, the little small mistakes, that they can kind of see themselves in the game and put the pressure back on IMG.
I don't think you necessarily have to be perfect. Obviously, every coach wants to be perfect week in and week out. But, like Rick said, I mean, if you can just limit the mistakes of, turnovers, putting the ball on the ground, letting up sacks, stuff like that. If you can just limit those, who knows? Anyone can win. So.
Absolutely. And then moving on to that second day, I think the big matchup of the second day at Rowan University, which I'm looking forward to, 7:30 p.m., you have Millville, obviously a state title contender in Group 4 almost perennially, and then Rancocas Valley, a team that played in the sectional final in Group 5 last year against Toms River North, who comes back into this season with the same aspirations. How excited are you for that matchup?
Honestly, those two games, even the one before it too, that is like 6 hours, 7 hours before that one too. I'm looking forward to that one as well because Washington Township's a very good program, also a Group 5 contender, just like Rancocas Valley is. Millville always a perennial Group 4 contender. So there's going to be some fireworks to start the season. There's going to be some fireworks, whether it's 14-10 or even like a 45-40. There's going to be fireworks regardless.
Absolutely, and I know Rancocas Valley is a team that believes they're experienced in the trenches, which is what any team at any level, high school, college, pro, would like to build the foundation on. Their quarterback, a Monmouth commit, Savian Adams, last year became the third or the fourth player in South Jersey history to throw for 2,000 yards and pass for 1,000 yards. And I read this morning in the Courier Post from obviously a great South Jersey legend we have here, Tom McGurk, who does a tremendous job covering South Jersey football for the Courier Post. He stated that there's only been one other quarterback to ever throw for 2,000 yards and rush for 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, and that's Winslow coach Bill Belton, who we just previously mentioned. So Savian Adams has an opportunity to do that again this year, and they have the team to do that. And as we said, playing Millville, another great test to start the season. Millville team that lost a couple of guys to graduation. One who is a household name in South Jersey who's at Alabama now. A couple all South Jersey guys on the front, both offensively and defensively. But they bring back a couple guys, the quarterback, Robbie O'Connor, and a lot of other guys who, Jaden Jones, UConn commit, who have been in those situations, those high pressure moments, and they're built for, opportunities like this, and it should be a very good game.
Yeah, I do want to touch on two other games that day that are out of state, but they are South Jersey teams. Camden going down to Martinsburg in West Virginia, and St. Augustine going to Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, going against a team that's literally in the backyard, Canton McKinley in Ohio. So, those are two games that obviously as South Jersey, media and, fans as well, because, sometimes, when the South Jersey goes and plays out of state, you do want to see South Jersey get the respect with a W. So you do want to see those two teams come back as well. And obviously Burlington Township in the Mountaineer Classic up at West Orange going up to play PCTI or Passaic Tech. That should be a pretty good one as well, too. So there's a lot of fireworks from South Jersey teams, whether they're playing in-state or out-of-state.
Absolutely. And you mentioning St. Augustine going up to Tom Benson Stadium there in Ohio, which is interesting considering they have a couple guys who will be playing in the Big Ten next year. And that's, Big Ten territory up there. So definitely, an interesting opportunity for those guys. And as you said, hopefully they can represent South Jersey with a win. But either way, a tremendous experience for those guys, regardless of the result. And obviously, as you mentioned, Burlington Township, Passaic Tech, Camden, and Martinsburg, a lot of great games in week 0 for, South Jersey teams to test themselves early on, kind of find out more about themselves. And then you have the third day of the Battle at the Beach. I know you mentioned there was a few big matchups there that you were interested in that caught your attention. Just take us through that.
Yes, to kick the day off at 9 o'clock at Rowan, we have Highland and Southern, a rematch of last year's matinee on the third day of Battle at the Beach. Southern came in with the win there. I think that was like 21-7, or it was a close game fairly, but Southern was fairly in control for most of the time. We have, which is honestly should be a pretty good one for South Jersey fans. Bridgeton had a resurgence last year. A lot of people didn't really expect them to do much, but they came out and they came out guns blazing, and they made a playoff appearance. Delran as well. Delran went 9-2 last year. Ended up running into the buzzsaw that is Rumson Fairhaven. They return a good amount back from that team as well. And they do lose Jaden Alford to Roman Catholic, but regardless, they do return the guys that possibly could get them back to that spot last year where they might have kind of been inexperienced. So, and then the two, the evening game, and then you have the night game. Evening game, we got Cedar Creek, Old Bridge, which obviously James Melody's North Jersey guy, so there's a little bit of a connection there too as well. Old Bridge, fairly good team too. Cedar Creek, obviously, they got explosiveness. Frenchman Bethea, Amir Dunbar, guys we'll get to a little bit later when we go over the division, stuff like that, where, Cedar Creek's always a team that's going to come out slinging the ball, whether they have, a quarterback that can run, a pro-style quarterback, whatever. They're going to throw the ball around regardless. And then we have the nightcap to kind of cap off, I guess, the weekend of sort. We have Haddonfield, Glassboro. Obviously, Haddonfield week 0. It seems like Haddonfield week 0, they hardly lose sometimes, whether they're playing Group 4 teams, Group 5 teams, whoever they're playing. And then you have Glassboro. Not much to say about Glassboro. We all know Glassboro. 13-0 state champs, ran through Cedar Grove at MetLife last year, returned pretty much almost the whole entire roster. Obviously, losing Kenny Smith does hurt in the running game too, but we'll get to that later as well with a guy that can probably fill in the gap there. But regardless, that could be another fireworks matchup too.
Absolutely. Two well-coached programs. Obviously, Glassboro, as you said, returning state champion. They have the same aspirations this year, and Haddonfield is looking to make some noise as well, being an experienced team that brings a lot of guys back on both sides of the ball. And as I said, a well-coached program. They're well-coached year in and year out. That's a program that's developed a culture, and guys come in, and there's a standard that's set, and they live up to that standard almost every year. So a great first weekend to start the season for sure. It's not like, there's a bunch of, games where there's nothing to watch that first week, where, it's, we got to wait until the season gets into the full swing. No, there's plenty to watch. So definitely a lot of games we'll be keeping an eye on this week.
Yeah, it's high school football almost feels like it's like the anti-college football week 0. You think your Power 5's college football, you're thinking they're playing, FCS teams, D2 teams. You're like, oh, where's this school at? And then you're like, you're at high school and it's just like two teams where it's like, oh my God, like we got two Titans clashing, whether it's like a Group 1, Group 2 top teams or Group 3, Group 4, they're going at it. they want that test early to kind of keep going through the season.
What's up, South Jersey football fans, coaches, players, parents? Welcome back to By the Numbers, where we break down interesting numbers in South Jersey football and talk about some of the biggest news in South Jersey football. It's Kevin Emmons here, obviously with Chris Baker. Now we want to just jump into some of the divisions in the West Jersey Football League. Not every single division, because obviously West Jersey Football League incorporates some of the Mercer County teams, which isn't in the traditional South Jersey region. So we're going to go over some of the traditional South Jersey teams. But before we go on, just want to promote our website, d2sportsnetwork.com. Check out the tremendous work that's done by our photographers, videographers, as well on our Instagram page at D2sportsnetwork. And if you're interested in having someone come out to your game, whether it be for photos, videos, and whatnot, we have a tremendous team, very skilled workers, professional guys who can get the job done. So make sure to check that out. But without any further ado, let's get into the divisions. And we'll start right at the top, Chris. The American Division, which obviously is the top flight division in the West Jersey Football League. Take us through that take us through that division. Who's the favorite? Who's the sleeper? What's your outlook on that division?
Well, obviously in a lot of tournaments, there's always usually the group that's usually loaded, whether it's like, you think of the World Cup, you think of the World Baseball Classic, stuff like that. This is that division. This is surely that division. Winslow came back last year going to 14-0, obviously division winner. They bring almost everything back from last year's team. I would imagine that they're probably the favorite.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at them. I mean, they bring back Jalen Parker, quarterback. By the time he graduates, I mean, he's going to hold plenty of records. Nearly 3,000 passing yards, 44 total touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year. They're loaded with Division I talent. As we said, Boomer Helen, who's going to Boston College, is tremendous on the outside. They added Quade Hendricks from Burlington Township, who's headed to UConn. And I know Winslow has big aspirations with their defense. They feel this is one of the best defenses they've ever had in that program. And it's saying a lot for a team that went undefeated last year and won a state championship in Group 4. So I'd agree that they're the favorite. And we have St. Augustine in that division, Millville, Mainland, Cherokee. So obviously a lot of top flight teams who have been successful over the past couple of years. Who would you say is a sleeper? I know there's really no sleepers in that division, but we're going to stick to the criteria. We're going to break this down with almost everybody. So who would you say is a sleeper to look out for in that division? Or someone who might be rated a little low right now, but they could be ranked higher by the time the season's over?
Honestly, like you said, there's like not really many sleepers. I guess if you want to technically go with like a sleeper, my two picks would probably be St. Augustine or Mainland, just because obviously – I don't want to say that Mainland's on a different or Winslow's on a different level, because it's South Jersey, it's high school football. Anyone could lose, anyone could win any given day, but obviously Winslow's Winslow. But I wouldn't count out a team like St. Augustine or Mainland to be the top of that division, as well as the top of the South Jersey rankings too. St. Augustine, like you mentioned before, it seems like almost everyone on their offensive and defensive lines going to the Big Ten. It seems like you got Damari Simeon going to Ohio State, Cameron Green going to Rutgers. You got a guy like Ty McAleer, who's on the back end of the secondary, going to Maine. You also added Bryce Clark to the transfer portal as well, come from Canton Catholic too, who can kind of give it to you on both sides of the ball. And Nick Costa off the edge on defense as well, going to Northwestern. Mainland, Chuck Smith always has his guys ready on offense. Tim Watson there on defense, always has his guys ready. And it seems like regardless of offers, whether it's D1, D2, D3, Mainland team, they're going to come ready to play.
Absolutely. I think, by definition of a sleeper, I'd probably have to go with Mainland, being they finished fourth in that division last year, but they were a Group 3 state runner-up. They bring back a lot of guys. John Franchini, I read this morning, another great nugget from Tom McGurk over at the Courier-Post. He's 9 wins away from tying the record that Kevin Harvey holds for most wins as a quarterback, because obviously Franchini's been playing there since he's a freshman, and they've won a lot of games since he's been there. So I believe it was 9 wins to tie the record, 10 to become the record holder. I could be wrong, but I'm about 99% sure that's what it was. So, it's a tremendous opportunity for Mainland and John Franchini to make some history this year. So, moving on, we have the Classic Division, another great division with Washington Township, Kingsway, Delsea, Timber Creek, and Williamstown. Some teams there. One major team that won a sectional championship last year, first sectional title since 1996. So, they're presumably the favorite, being that they bring back a lot of guys, but there's other teams there that could contend for sectional championships. Another great division. Who's your favorite? Who's your sleeper?
I'd say the favorite's Washington Township. They do bring back a lot, and even some of the holes that might have been left, they've got guys that have stepped up. Obviously, we saw them at our 7-on-7 runner-up to Winslow. held their own there as well. Obviously, you think of Washington Township as a running team, and you go to a passing tournament like a 7-on-7, and you hold your own with Winslow. That kind of says a lot about what you have skill position wise, because obviously we already know what they got up front. They're going to have the big guys up front on defense and offense, but not really a sleeper to win the division, but a sleeper to just kind of make some noise in general this year. Williamstown, they're a fairly young team last year, really big freshman class. A lot of freshman production last year. Trey Alexander, it's the name. You got Chris Foster, who's coming over from Glassboro, competing for the starting job. You got Aiden Ezaraku, Donovan's little brother. So I mean, they got guys.
Absolutely, and I'd agree with you spot on. I think Washington Township's the favorite. As we said, first sectional title since 1996. They bring back a lot of starters on both sides of the ball. Very good in the trenches, very big in the trenches, which goes a long way. This is a team that's going to expect to be playing on the last day of the season, last weekend of the season. Cole Aquino, who's been their quarterback for a couple years now, threw for nearly 2,000 yards last year, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And Colin Beeler was a breakout star last year at running back, over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. And defensively, they got a lot of great guys. Andrew Osborne leading the way. Gabe Palaganas, if I say that correctly. A lot of guys who've been playing since early on at Washington Township, and they're having that opportunity now to contribute to a championship winning program. And I'd agree with Williamstown as a sleeper as well. That's a team that a couple years ago was the cream of the crop in South Jersey, and they're trying to build that up again. It's a great football town. I remember going there a couple years ago, and they'd come out with the blue smoke, and their banner was huge that they'd run out of. You got plenty of people in the crowd. I mean, it's a Group 5 school. Monroe Township's a very large area. That's a team who I think could surprise some people this year. You mentioned some of the big names they have. They're young. The guys have played a lot. They're experienced. It's a tough division, but I agree that they're a sleeper, a team that could make the playoffs this year, build on a 2-8 season, and surprise some people potentially in South Jersey. And this is a team last year that beat a Seneca team the first week of the season, fairly young. And Seneca went on to do some very good things. That's a program that's the last 2 years has been, relevant in South Jersey. So I would agree that Williamstown is a sleeper as well. Moving on, we have another great division, the Colonial Division, with Camden, Rancocas Valley, Shawnee, Lenape, and Eastside, formerly Woodrow Wilson. So obviously a lot of programs there who have won a lot of championships over the past couple years, or won a lot of games over the past couple years. Who's the favorite? Who's the sleeper?
Honestly, right now for the favorite, I'd go with Rancocas Valley.
Oh man, you gotta earn your money for this one. This is a good division right here. You said some names. Let's go.
We got a good conversation right here. This is a good one.
Let's get to it.
It's a good one.
Let's go, Chris. You're on the hot seat right now. The other ones was kind of.
So I mean, looking at what they bring back, at least just kind of on the surface. Obviously, you mentioned Savian Adams earlier. One of only 3 or 4 players to pass for 2,000, run for 1,000, that could possibly do it again to join. We mentioned earlier, Bill Belton, the head of the Winslow squad there. They brought in Terrence Knighton, really good wide receiver for Willingboro. I liked him a lot. I saw him, I think, twice last year, and I saw him once, I think, the year before that as well. Very good, very dynamic, can add a lot to the passing game, especially losing a guy like Brody Diter, too. And then you also have Jameer Bellamy, very versatile back, kind of play in the slot, catch passes out of the backfield, take snaps out of the backfield where you need. And then Ricky Doppler, too. Tight end is such an underrated position in South Jersey. No one really thinks of tight ends in South Jersey. Ricky Doppler's been doing it. He's a 3-year starter. He's a senior this year, going to be a 4-year starter. And then the guy that you kind of were telling us about early last year, the sophomore, Michael Beasley. He had a monster coming out party last year, I would say, because, he made his name. I think he had a pretty good game against St. Augustine, too, that a lot of people were at. So that's kind of, I guess, my short case there for Rancocas Valley.
Yeah, I mean, Beasley was tremendous as a freshman. 88 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, a forced fumble. And also David Ogunsola, if I'm saying that correctly, 92 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. They're tremendous up front defensively, and even offensively, they got a lot of big guys. And you mentioned Ricky Doppler. I mean, he's massive. He's another offensive lineman practically playing tight end. Mm-hmm. But this is a tough one, man. I know Rick, I know wants to get on this too. I mean, this is the toughest one we've had so far. Camden and RV are the favorites in that division. Yeah, they played last year. You look at a couple, rankings from some outside sources right now. Some people may have Rancocas Valley ahead of Camden. Others may have Camden ahead of Rancocas Valley. Camden beat Rancocas Valley last year, 44-27. Rancocas Valley also had some good wins, though, against Washington Township, St. Augustine. It's a coin toss. What do you think, Rick? You're the Camden guy. You're the Camden alum. What do you think? Give us what's your insight on Camden right now?
Y'all not getting me on the hot seat. Listen, I'm on the control boards right now. This is when I fall back. But I think either one of those teams, you can't go wrong. They're bringing back some really good players. That's a tough one. But I would have to say, I don't know.
I was going to say he's not going to give us the cop out, co-division champion answer, but he just said I don't know. Okay, it's fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, you would have to go with out of the two of them, who's the favorite? Is that the question?
That's the segment we're doing. I mean,
I was trying to sneak my way out of it, but I mean, you would have to go. You would have to lean Camden. Only reason I'm saying that is because head to head last year, it was a clear difference. I think RV, after that game, thought about some things that they could have did to win that game. But right now, you would have to lean Camden only because of that, and they have a lot of their guys coming back. They still have, the running back. They have their defensive lineman, Muhammad. I don't want to start naming names because if I forget somebody, their parents. You got
Christian Braxton who rushed for nearly 1,200 yards last year, 11 touchdowns. Ibn Muhammad, who's headed to Syracuse, was tremendous at wide receiver. Talib Shakir, who's going to Colgate, and they're experienced up front as well. As we said, JoJo White, and it's a coin toss, it's a coin flip, and as you said, a head-to-head matchup last year with two teams that bring back a lot of guys. It's a fair take to say that they are the favorite right now, and it could go either way. And I think this is really what the division is going to come down to, is those two teams.
And I'm just saying this because of the knowledge that I know seeing both programs. Usually RV, you kind of look at their skill guys with, Savion Adams and guys like that. And the same thing with Camden. But this year, I think this is a year where Camden kind of addressed the offensive line. I believe they have a Syracuse commit on there.
White.
So they have some guys up front where you normally are kind of looking at that as being the weak spot for Camden and for RV. So both teams, I would have to lean Camden. Just
it's a good debate. Like I said, the three divisions we've covered so far, that's probably the closest race we have. I'll start off with the sleeper. I think my sleeper in this division would be Shawnee, and I think Lenape and Eastside both have a case to be a sleeper because, as we were talking about before the show started, Lenape's a team that has built a good program over the years. They were a championship-winning program a couple years ago. Around that same time, Williamstown was really good, and they've just had some growing pains, and the schedule hasn't done them any favors. Same with Eastside. That's a program that's won championships. They were young. They're playing a tough schedule. Shawnee, though, I'll give the edge being that they're a team that went 8-4 last year. They graduated a lot, but they bring enough back, and they're a team who's always going to play you tough. They're good, very experienced up front. Cole Anderson, the sophomore quarterback, was a bruiser. I mean, we've seen him come in last year against Rancocas Valley, and I think he ran for over 200 yards that day. So they have something to kind of build on. I don't know if they'll win this division, but they can be the sleeper, being that they're going to come out and give you their best fight every time they come out.
Yeah, even if the record doesn't really show it for Shawnee too. I mean, I think they were 3-6 a couple of years ago, and I think they made a fairly deep playoff run. And you think about that, it's like, but then you look at the schedule, it's like, how is this team 3-6? They're so good, and you look at the schedule, it's like, okay, they're playing the top 5 teams in South Jersey every other week. So I mean, Shawnee's always well coached, and they always have guys that they either may play at the next level. It's almost like Shawnee. You look at some of the guys that graduate. When you see the graduation, you look at the big guys. Last year it seemed like almost every other lineman that graduated, it's going to a Patriot League school or an Ivy League school. And you see the skill guys, and they're all playing lacrosse. They're all playing lacrosse at the next level. So
Absolutely.
it's that's another thing too. Is they're multi-sport athletes. They're always doing something. They're always staying active. They're always making sure that they have something that kind of translates to what they're doing each season.
Can I jump in? Just to talk about sleeper, this is a good division. I think Shawnee is a great pick for that. I just want to make note that a team like Eastside last year, they were down. They're going to be young again. I'm not saying that they're going to be the sleeper, but I think it should be noticed that Preston Brown has come back and is helping out with the program again with his brother Malik. They've won state championships, together.
Two great football minds.
Yeah, so that's just something. That's a little nugget just to look out for. Them kind of getting back together, getting the band back, so to say. But Shawnee is a really good pick for a sleeper this year.
Well, I want to add off that real quick too. I mean, obviously, you look at those teams that like Preston Brown was the head coach of. You think of like Cardsman, Clark, Diggs. They had all those guys. I feel like right now they might be kind of like kind of building towards having those guys to where they can get back to that stage of playing at MetLife or Rutgers or something like that.
Very young team. They'll be young and they'll have a lot of hurdles to overcome to get into that conversation as the upper echelon of that division. But I'm stating it here now. Keep an eye out for that. In another 2 years, we'll know why.
Well, they'll be in a new division next year also because it's a bi-yearly swap. So I mean,
I'm just saying as far as their
next year. Possibly.
Yeah, I'm saying as far as their
that.
production and the level of guys that they have over there, they're really good, but they're just young.
Absolutely. No, it's a great point by both of you. It's a growing period for them. And in time, they could be very good from that developmental period. And as you said, that's a good important thing to note that the West Jersey Football League has that 2-year cycle. So next year, these divisions will be completely different. We'll be here talking about different teams in different divisions. Some may stay the same. A lot could be different. So moving on, we'll move on to the Constitution Division. This is another one where we might have a little debate on who's the favorite. We have Holy Spirit, Atlantic City, Cedar Creek, Ocean City, and Hamilton. A lot of programs who have won a lot of championships and traditionally are strong year in and year out. Who's the favorite? Who's the sleeper? Isn't it funny how every time there's a good one, I always let you start off with it?
I say there's two co-favorites. I really can't decide.
I'm not going to cop-out answer.
I'm not going to take the cop-out answer. I'm just saying, like, I need to see this weekend. I'm obviously going to get a better gauge of each team because I'll see them. But just off what they bring back, I would kind of go with Holy Spirit just because of they up front. I feel like they always have something up front, but I'd say Cedar Creek's a very close second there, and I really wouldn't kind of give I can't give a clear answer on that one, but I'd say it's almost a tie, but I would give Holy Spirit the edge just because they always bring back more up front.
Well, the fun of it is we got to say it before we see him this weekend. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. So you take Holy Spirit. I think I would have to say right now the favorite I think would be Cedar Creek. You look at what they bring back. Amir Dunbar has been starting there for a couple years now. Over 1,200 yards last year, 14 touchdowns. And this is a team that's prided itself on defense the past couple years as well. And really just traditionally since they became a program in 2010. And I've always been impressed by the fact that Cedar Creek is a program that, as we just said, the school just opened in 2010. And all they've done is win. Now, they've had a down year here and there, but for the most part, that's a championship-winning program. They've won more sectional championships than a lot of programs that have been around for decades. So, I mean, that's impressive. And as I said, Amir Dunbar, tremendous running back there. And then you look at Jameer Canfield, who's going to Bryant. And then on the defense, you got Just Us, Peyton, and Guyan King, if I'm saying that correctly. Sure. All South Jersey guy a year or two ago, 36 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, interception. And Peyton, 108 tackles, 24 tackles for loss. And they bring back a lot of guys both sides of the ball. I believe their entire linebacking group is back, all 3 starters, 7 or 8 starters back. And James Melody he's a tough guy. He's built a culture there. They're going to come out and expect to win every week, and I think that's a team that's going to be competing for a sectional championship. I think Holy Spirit is another one during the conversation. As you said, that's your pick. I'm going to tell you that's your pick because we're not doing this. I'll wait till next week. But I think Holy Spirit's another program that even when they graduate guys, a standard's been built there. They're well coached. They bring back a lot of guys as well. But I think that standard is there to where there might be some growing pains, but they're going to go in each week, not saying, hey, this is a developmental year for us. No, they expect to win. These are 2 teams who I think consensusly everyone will agree in South Jersey, whatever ranking you look at, these are 2 top 10 teams in South Jersey, 2 top 12 teams in South Jersey. So those, I think, are the favorites. I'm taking Cedar Creek. You got Holy Spirit, just so we could,
All right, I'll
be
go with
different
that one.
here.
I'll go with that one.
For the sleeper, I don't know if they're much of a sleeper, but in this division, I'd say they are, being that you're playing behind Holy Spirit and Cedar Creek. Ocean City, another program who year in and year out, and it's the same way with basketball. This is a program where you go into the year, not a lot of people may be talking about them. They may not be in a ranking or predicted to finish first in their division, but they're a program that's good every year. They're solid at least. Every year they expect to be in the playoffs. They're usually very good up front. They're well coached. They're going to compete every single week. They're going to give every team their best shot. They got Tristan Schmidt back, Jackson Becker, Clay Compton, Jake Chapman. They're a team, as I said, that's going to try to run the ball, play smash mouth football. I think they could be a sleeper in this division, and they could give teams a run for their money and, contend for that division title. And Atlantic City, Hamilton, two other programs that, traditionally are tough. They have their own style of play and whatnot, well-coached programs. They could be in the hunt as well. Ocean City's my sleeper. Who you got?
I got to go with Ocean City, too. They're always a team. They always have size, regardless of what position it is. They always have size. And Jackson Becker, he's only a sophomore. Last year, I think he only played like 2 or 3 games, and he had to get thrown in the fire a little bit late there in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure they had Allentown. I'm pretty sure they beat is what it was. And their starting quarterback last year, I forget his name already, but they threw Becker in, and he took them to the next level. He got them over that game. Obviously ran into a brick wall there after that round, but after that, I mean, they bring back enough to where they can make a at least fairly decent run in Group 3.
So moving on now to the Continental Division, we have Paul VI, Seneca, Willingboro, Haddonfield, Gloucester. Who's the favorite?
One. Can you say that again? Those teams?
The Continental Division, we have Paul VI, Seneca, Willingboro, Haddonfield, and Gloucester City. I think this is an underrated division. It's a very good division. There's a lot of good teams there, and it's kind of funny how these now. I guess I would have to talk to someone from the West Jersey Football League. These divisions, we have them in alphabetical order here, but they're kind of seem like in tiers. We got the top flight, the American, and whatnot. It seems like kind of follows the system here. I don't know if that's how it's designed, but the Continental, I think, is a division, as we just stated, Paul VI, Seneca, Willingboro, Haddonfield, Gloucester City, that is just as good as these other divisions we just listed. Very competitive, a lot of parity.
And I'm just listening to
Pleasantville, too. Pleasantville's in that division.
Pleasantville as well. Excuse me, that's on the other side here.
Okay, so you said Paul VI,
Paul
sir.
6.
playoffs. Willingboro, playoffs. Seneca, playoffs. Who else we got?
Haddonfield.
Haddonfield, playoffs.
Gloucester City.
Gloucester City, playoffs.
Are you talking about playoff? Like, are you talking about each team this year is going to be playoff?
They all made the playoffs last year.
No, Gloucester didn't.
Gloucester City missed. Well, I mean, it's been a little bit,
I'm
but
pretty sure last.
it came down to the wire.
No, I'm lying to you. I'm sorry. They did. They went to Point Borough. My
Right.
fault. I couldn't remember what year that was.
So the only team that didn't was Pleasantville, correct?
Yeah, it came down to that last game between them and Gloucester.
That's what I thought it came down to. I knew it was a game I couldn't remember. It's been a little bit. Excuse us, we've been off for a little bit, but we trying to get back into it. But what I'm saying is that is a strong division. That's why I had to hear those teams again. This is going to be another one that's going to be hard to pick sleepers and whatnot. And I'll leave it to you guys.
Yeah, I think the favorite would have to be Paul VI right now. They bring back a lot of guys. Nate Klecko ran for 905 yards, 9 touchdowns last year. Tyree Roan has been an all-South Jersey selection before at wide receiver, 43 catches, 630 yards, 6 touchdowns. I forgot it. I meant to bring it with me. Dan Klecko, if you're watching, I have an autographed card of yours on the Eagles. I meant to bring that and give you a shout-out as we were talking Paul VI here. Maybe I'll bring it to the next show. We like to get going and get the people interacting and whatnot. But Anthony Jackson, tremendous on defense last year. 71 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. Nick Reed was tremendous in the secondary with 53 tackles and an interception. I think they're the favorite, being that they went 8-3 last year. They bring back a good nucleus. This is a team that has been on the uprise the past couple years. That'd be my pick for a favorite. Would you agree with that?
I'll go with Paul VI as well. I saw them, I want to say, twice last year. I saw them in their Thanksgiving Eve game against Camden Catholic. I'm pretty sure I saw them a week before prior to sometime early in the regular season. But yeah, Paul VI, like they lose their motor a little bit. Mo Keshin was kind of their motor on both sides of the ball there. But you do bring back the guys that already had that experience of playing with somebody like Keshin, to where they might have realized, hey, he's gone. We need someone that can step up. Why not me? I know what to do. I have the blueprint. I have the baseline. Let me set the tone here. And if you get multiple guys like that can kind of set the tone and can kind of, I guess, be the motor and be the engine of the team, you got guys, you got talent up and down the board there that they can make a run.
And I do want to say, Paul VI is my pick, so saying a cop-out answer. I'm not doing the co-champions thing. But if I got Paul VI here, Seneca's right there with him. Another team that, as I said, has improved over the years. They're in the playoffs each year now. They're looking to play for sectional championships. Obviously, a lot of people know they have a great dual-threat quarterback with Anthony Tirico, 1,853 passing yards last year, 14 passing touchdowns, ran for another 899 yards and 12 touchdowns. They're very good up front in the trenches. Kingston Williams is one of their best players defensively, and he's tremendous. And I seen him on the basketball court last year in the playoffs against Shawnee. Tremendous athlete. I mean, in basketball, he was above the rim. He's very explosive. He's very twitchy. He can get around guys and whatnot. And I also got to give a shout out to Nate Sauerwald, wide receiver, 21 catches, 363 yards, 4 touchdowns last year. Nate, you were a kid. You probably don't remember. I played pickup basketball with your dad at barbecues. So I got to give a shout out to my guy there. But this is a team that brings back guys like Nate Sauerwald, Brody Phillips, guys that are skill position guys who have been a part of this team, this program. And as we said, another program similar to Paul VI, who's kind of been on the uprise. And I think that's an interesting aspect of this division. You look at, Willingboro, Haddonfield, Pleasantville. These are teams who a couple years ago were competing for sectional championships and whatnot, and they still have been in the mix over the years. A couple of them, Haddonfield and Willingboro, more recently. But these are all teams. Almost every team in this division is a team that's on an upward trend right now. So I think that makes it a very interesting division to monitor.
Don't forget, Willingboro played Gloucester 3 years ago in the sectional final as well. So, I mean, there's familiarity there, too. I'd go Haddonfield, too, as my sleeper. Sleeper to go with.
Haddonfield can't be a sleeper, bro.
Well, here's the thing. We already
I'm
picked,
just saying. What
we
we
already
doing?
picked
You know,
favorites.
yeah.
We got our favorite. But
To be by the standard, it's kind of like when we said Mainland's a sleeper when you came in 4th place in your division last
they're
year, but you're a state champion runner-up. But Rick's got a point too, though. Haddonfield, but it's fair in this exercise. It's fair. They can be seen as a sleeper here when you have. They finished in 4th place last year in a very good division. And when I say 4th place, let's mention Paul VI 8-3, Seneca 8-4, Willingboro 7-4, Haddonfield 7-4. But why would you pick them as your sleeper? What's your reason behind that?
they always seem to rise up to the occasion. I know last year they felt a little young. They let some games slip away late. Obviously, that comes with inexperience. But they bring those guys back, those key guys back. You bring back Van Lefakis, who kind of lost the starting job of the quarterback position last year. Dan Keenan got thrown in there, but it was more like an athlete kind of position for him. It wasn't really like a true quarterback. But it feels like this year they kind of have more of a sense of who they are, of what they bring back and what they're trying to accomplish this year. I do want to say Pleasantville and Gloucester too are, I guess, teams I do want to look at, because Pleasantville, they always have athletes there. They always bring some guys that are athletic. It might not be usually on the trenches. I know when I played against Pleasantville, actually, it's funny. I played against Elijah Glover. He was a senior and I was a sophomore at Pleasantville, and he'll make one of his returns at Gloucester, where he was a division rival a couple years ago. And they're teams that were young, and they also did the same thing as Haddonfield. But when they played Haddonfield, they let games slip away. Like I went to the Gloucester versus Haddonfield game last year. Gloucester, they had a good amount of experience, but they were a little bit young in some spots. They kind of let that game slip away. They were like a player or two from keeping themselves in it. A couple big plays for Haddonfield. I think Haddonfield blocked a punt or something like that also. So there are two teams also I'd keep an eye on, but I would say Haddonfield by definition would be technically a sleeper.
You made a great point there when you first started talking about Haddonfield, about showing some signs of inexperience last year, and this year being the year where they can sort of turn the tide. And it'll be interesting to see, because that is a team that lost a lot of close games last year, division games. I remember they lost a very close game to Willingboro. This could be a year where maybe some of those games where they lost by a touchdown, they win by a touchdown this year. So I think that's a fair sleeper pick. I'd agree. I think that's a team to keep an eye on. And as you said, Gloucester and Pleasantville also valid sleeper candidates as well. but another tough division there. And I think, Haddonfield qualifies as a sleeper. When you come in fourth place, as we said, 7-4, but that fits the criteria. So moving on now, we have the Diamond Division, which is headlined by defending 13-0 Group 1 state champion Glassboro, followed by Woodstown, Shalleck, Woodbury, Penns Grove, and Salem. So all South Jersey Group 1 schools. Who's the favorite? Who would be a sleeper?
Favorite's kind of clear cut here. It's got to be Glassboro.
Don't got to say much, right?
Yeah, the rest of the teams in that division are very talented, very senior heavy the past couple of years, almost complete overhauls, and Glassboro just brings back the most. They bring back the most experience, they bring back the most talent, they bring back the most, coach. They even Jojo DeLeese, I got to see him last year. Me and Rick got to see him because we did some Roman stuff last year as well. It's no Kenny Smith, but he's a guy that can kind of fill that gap and kind of, bring the production to a spot that is needed, especially on both sides of the ball, too.
I'd agree. I mean, Glassboro, as we said, 13-0 state champion. You bring back a lot of guys both sides of the ball. The standard's been set. That's who every other Group 1 team in the state is chasing. And I know we're talking divisions right now. I don't want to branch off too much, but when I was going through the script today and was thinking about Glassboro and whatnot and how they bring back everyone from a team that went undefeated, it's not often you see that. It started making me think of some of the most stacked Group 1 teams you've seen over the past couple of years. And Glassboro has an opportunity to possibly go undefeated and win another state championship. So they're definitely going to be in that conversation. I know you've seen a lot of Group 1 football over the year. What's the most stacked or best Group 1 team you've seen in the area?
I'd probably all time or just in general.
In your years, that where you've seen, here, you want me to give my answer first? I'll give my answer first. And as I said, I think Glassboro this season, even Glassboro last year, when Kenny Smith was eligible, and I mean he went on a tear in the 9 games he played, was a South Jersey Player of the Year. I think those two teams last year and this year could be in that conversation. I'd say the most stacked Group 1 team I've seen was that year Willingboro was in Group 1 with a Sean Davis, Chris Long. I mean, they were loaded up front. It's not often you see a Group 1 school with linemen that huge, and they had their way with everyone that year. Demi Sumo, who went on to play at Kentucky. Zamir Bryant was another great guy in that backfield. Their run game was unstoppable. That's probably the most stacked Group 1 team I ever seen. I mean, they had Division I guys both sides of the ball. They were launching the ball downfield. They had 3 or 4 different backs who could run the ball. It was just an interesting thought I had today when I was looking at Glassboro, because I think Glassboro has the potential, the opportunity to be in that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at Gloucester, we played Group 1. We were still Group 1 at the time, but we didn't really get to play the Willingboros. We did play Salem. We played Salem my freshman year. We played Shalleck my freshman year. They had Tyree Snipe, who's a really good running back at the time. Salem, I think they had a couple guys that were, I think, pretty big names at the time. When I was playing, I didn't really pay too much attention to outside of who we were playing on the schedule. But now, I mean, Group 1, now that I've been in the media side of things, it's starting to kind of turn the tide a little bit, especially the last 2 years with Woodstown, Shalleck, and Woodbury all being in the picture. Obviously, that Woodbury team, 22, that Woodbury team was very, very good also.
It's a good pick. So who would you say is a sleeper in this division this year?
I'd probably go with. It's kind of hard because no one really brings too much back. But I'd go with Woodbury. They're always in it regardless. They're always a team that no matter the record, no matter what they bring back, they're always going to be in the mix regardless of who they're up against.
That's a good pick, and that's a team that obviously won a state championship a couple years ago. They were playing in that regional championship before they had the state championship, so they've sort of set a standard. They have guys there who know what they want to accomplish, well coached and whatnot, so it's a good pick. I think a team to look for in that division is Salem. They got Temple commit Antoine Rogers leading the way. Kem Carr is back for his second season. They were 0-9 last year, so the only way to go is up. So that's something they could build on. And I think they're a team that could, make some progress this season. And as you said, when a lot of teams in one division lose a lot of guys and there's a lot of turnover, it makes it interesting because it opens the road for pretty much everyone. Anyone could emerge and come out of that. So obviously these teams are going to have their work cut out with them when it comes time to play Glassboro and whatnot. But it'll be a great experience for them, a great learning experience either way, whatever the outcome may be. I think Salem's a team you could keep an eye on in that division. Moving on now, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit for the sake of time. Moving to the Freedom Division, which is Pennsauken, Eastern, Vineland, Cherry Hill West, and Highland. My paper is ending right there. I'm not leaving no teams off right now, am I?
Clearview.
Clearview? Okay.
Highland and Clearview are the back end, or well, the last two teams in the division that you forgot to mention. So
Okay.
yeah, Pennsauken, Eastern, Vineland, Cherry Hill West, Highland, and Clearview.
Okay, so favorite and sleeper, who you got?
Favorite, I'd go Pennsauken. They do return the most. I got to see them last year. RJ Blunt is a dog. That kid is good. I think he ran the ball like
He's really good.
Yeah, I think me and Colin were at a game last year. He ran the ball like almost 40 times, had like 250, almost 300 yards. I mean, they kind of ran the offense through him. The offense does kind of go through him. But they're always a team that is always going to have really good and really fit. I mean, it's Pennsauken. You can't be Pennsauken without speed, too.
Yeah, so Pennsauken, I mean, that's the rightful favorite. I could agree with that. Having Temple commit RJ Blunt, who, as you said, was tremendous. I didn't get to see him last year, but I've only heard great things. And if you're at Temple, chances are you're probably pretty good. I think Eastern's a team that could be in the mix as well. Terry Cook, Max Cutler, Zach Wood, a couple guys, and a strong 2026 and 2027 class there. And know a couple people that are close with the program who think this could be a very good season for them, a program that could have a good year this year, get through the regular season, accumulate some wins, and kind of build on that. And Eastern's a program, a very large program, a Group 5 school that had success in the past, has been working towards that again. I think they're another one who could be in the mix. Who's a sleeper pick for you here?
I would say technically, I guess by definition, default, I'd go Eastern. They do return a lot of guys that produce for them. Obviously, they lose their can't really say Boston College commit now because he's part of the Phillies organization. They lost their quarterback, Logan Dawson, who's now in the Philadelphia Phillies organization after getting drafted last year. But I'd kind of look out for Clearview because they get Mike Wilson in his first year there. We saw what he did. We saw what he did with Shalleck at a Group 1 school where Group 1 doesn't have as many resources, financial facilities, all that stuff. Clearview, they just got a brand new turf. Their athletic department, they always want to win in every sport. They're always willing to give the support needed, whether it's financial or facilities, stuff like that. They're always willing to give the coaches what they need to find success. I think with Wilson, what he did at Shalleck, I don't think they're going to be contenders year one, but I'd say like year 2, year 3, you start to see the Pioneers kind of back in the mix of what they were with Steve Scanlon at the helm there.
And I like that pick. Clearview's a team, when I first started covering sports, when I was working with the Burlington County Times and was interning with, some South Jersey journalism legends, Phil Anastasia, Mark Narducci, working on First and 10, the show. I remember going out to a sectional championship that Clearview was in. They hosted Shawnee. That game, on a side note, was an absolute classic. Clearview went up 14-0. Shawnee came back and won 17-14 in double overtime, I believe. It might have been triple overtime. I want to say it was double overtime. So another program that, as we've mentioned in the show, with like Lenape, Williamstown, that were championship programs a couple years ago, and every program deals with growing pains as generations move on and whatnot. I like that pick as a sleeper pick because, as you said, they're bringing in Mike Wilson, who turned it around at Shalleck. Clearview's a large school that has a lot of resources. The guys are hungry, and they've struggled in previous years. It's sort of like what I said with Salem. The only way to go is up, and this is a division where you have Pennsauken and Eastern at the top, but anyone could emerge. So I like that sleeper pick, and I could even agree with that. So moving on now, it looks like we have the Independence Division here. Am I still on the right track here?
Still going the ABC order, yeah.
So we have Burlington Township, Delran, Cinnaminson, Northern Burlington, Haddon Heights, and Morristown. And this is another division I think that could be a pretty good division this year. And I mean, I'm not trying to sound biased being the Burlington County guy, but Burlington Township 8-2 last year, Delran 9-2, Cinnaminson 5-5, and then you have Northern Burlington 4-6, Haddon Heights 4-8, Morristown 2-8. A couple teams there at the top who won a lot of games last year and were playing in playoffs and whatnot and going on runs. Who's the favorite? Who's a sleeper?
Favorite? I'm gonna go with Burlington Township. They do return a good amount. Steve Everett's always got his guys going up there. Whether he's at, what doesn't matter what school he's at, he's always gonna have his guys going. They also got, I'm pretty sure how you say it, Jameis Saki. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. It seems to be one of the fastest linebackers possibly in the state. Was on part of the 4x4 team that set like a New Jersey record or something like that this past track season. So if you got a linebacker that has sideline to sideline speed just like that, the high school level, I think your defense should be possibly in a pretty good spot. And we all know Everett likes to air the ball out too as well. And Burlington Township always has athletes for that.
I would agree that they are the favorite in that division. As I said, being that they went on a run last year, they made the playoffs, and they were competitive in almost every game they played last year. They bring a lot back defensively, 8 starters back on that side of the ball, and Steven Everett's a championship winning coach. I would talk to Steve a lot over the years when he was at Willingboro. He was the head coach, actually, of that team I mentioned, most stacked Group 1 team I've ever seen, or the best Group 1 team I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes as a journalist. So they'll be well coached. The defense will be playing smash mouth, gritty football, their experience. I think they're the team to beat in the division. And Delran will be in the mix too, 9-2, and they return a lot. So look out for them as well. But I think Burlington Township right now is the team to beat. And in terms of a sleeper, I'd go Cinnaminson, 5-5. They return a decent amount. Dom Del Grippo, their biggest returning asset. I think 5-5 is something you could build on. I seen them at the Battle of the Beach last year against Ocean City. They were a team I was big on going into last year, and they dealt with some growing pains, some ups and downs and whatnot. I think they're a team, though. They always play Delran tough. That's one of those big neighborhood rivalries in the area. Cinnaminson, Delran.
Last second field goal, yeah.
Absolutely. And there's no love lost between those two rivals. So that'll be a game you have to mark on your calendar because those two right now are the ones who are right behind Burlington Township. So whoever wins that game could have the edge in chasing Burlington Township. So I think I'd take Cinnaminson as my sleeper there.
Yeah, I'd say Cinnaminson as well. But, I mean, I can't really decide between Cinnaminson and Delran. But I would say I'd give the edge to, if we had to pick like a second place or like a 1A, 1B kind of thing, I'd go with Delran. Just because I got to see both those teams last year. Delran did get the edge with that last second field goal. They do bring their kicker back as well, which kicking is a very, very underrated position in South Jersey, as we do see week in and week out. You know, some of these teams might have a kicker have to go for it on 4th and 20 or 4th and 10, you know, whatever it is. But, you know, some of the teams that have a kicker, they can like, hey, trot our guy out there. We know we can hit it. But Delran, they have the size advantage, I feel like, as well, too. Delran's very big for a Group 2 team. They're not necessarily, like, tall, but they're more broad and they're more of, like, as as Coach Mack likes to say, they got the hamstrings. You know, they got the big lower half to where they can move the guys. And I think that, you know, Vinny Sacca had a really good year last year. You know, you think of Delran, they run the ball a lot. He threw for almost 1,000 yards. And for the Delran offense to where you run the ball a lot, you have 3 or 4 different backs you use to have a quarterback throw for almost 1,000 yards. That's you can't go wrong with that.
I want to backtrack a little bit because when you started there, you were saying, you know, 1A, 1B. I don't want to change the criteria.
I'm not
here.
saying 1A, 1B.
You know, we got a little 9-2 team here. I don't know if that's sleeper, but no, I'm only teasing because I would agree and even say that Delran to me is a team who I think is a sleeper in terms of
the playoff bracket,
the entire scheme of South Jersey. I mean, they went 9-2 last year, and as you said, they returned a lot of their core. And I think this is a team where, depending on how their schedule pans out, this is a team, if they win a couple games early on, you know, people might be like, oh, look at Delran. It might be a team, you know, sneaking into the back end of someone's rankings and whatnot. So I think they do qualify as a sleeper, and they could be a sleeper even beyond the West Jersey Football League Independence Division and in all of South Jersey. Moving on, we have the Liberty Division, which includes exclusively Cape Atlantic League teams. We have Oak Crest, Middle Township, Absegami, Lower Cape May, Cumberland, St. Joe's Hamilton. A couple teams here who will be going through rebuilds this year. Who's the favorite? Who's the sleeper?
Well, first off, actually, Cumberland's Tri-County, so that's like actually
you're correct.
They're like
you're
close, but
good catch.
I'd say the favorite's probably going to be Oak Crest again, even though they won their first division title in, I want to say, a couple decades probably. They did return Donovan Linthicum, who is arguably one of the best linebackers in the entire state. And Oak Crest is always going to have a good defense. They're always going to have size. They're always going to have speed on defense. Just the question with them is, can they get it going offensively? So I think that might be possibly the big thing they'll work on this year.
Yeah, I think they're the team to be in Division 6-4. As you mentioned, Donovan Linthicum, who's headed to Villanova, one of the best linebackers in the state. And last year they had him at running back, and that's what you do. You put the ball in your best player's hands. He's tremendous. They're building around him, and it's not just him. They have Jaleel Williams and a lot of other tremendous players down there. I think they're the most experienced team in the division. As I said, a couple of these teams will be rebuilding, so I think they are in the driver's seat. And as you said, first division title in several years last year. So they are the team to beat. In terms of sleepers, I think I would keep an eye on this year. St. Joe's Hamilton, a program traditionally one of the best in South Jersey, if not the best, if we're looking at the numbers and whatnot in history. They're in their 3rd year under Ron Dorsey. They're steering the ship in the right direction. 2-7 last year. they're slowly getting back to where they were. Obviously, Paul Seiko leaving, retiring, those are huge shoes to fill. I mean, he's holds records for wins and championships and whatnot. So that's, of course, going to take time when you deal with a transition like that. But each year they're making strides. I think that's a team to keep an eye on. It could be a sleeper in this division.
Yeah, I'll go St. Joe's Hamilton as well. Just like you mentioned before, they're going in the right direction. First under Ron Dorsey, like you said, you can't go backwards. Didn't win a single game. They finally won the first 2 games under Coach Dorsey last year. I think later in the season possibly. So to kind of cap the year with a couple wins, you want to go into next year with, hey, we got some momentum rolling late. We want to get hot early. We want to win some games early. We want to make some noise early to keep that going throughout the entire course of the season. So I think St. Joe's Hamilton, they always have athletes too, whether it's at the quarterback position, skill position, up front, on both sides of the line. They're always going to have some athletes up there, and it seems like they're kind of getting back in that the scheme of things with that.
All right, so we're going to kind of switch up here. We're going to do a little speed round here. We got a couple divisions left. We're going to make it quick here. Favorite sleeper. Let's see how many we agree on, disagree on, whatnot. Let's just tear it through real quick. Memorial Division, we have Cherry Hill East, Bridgeton, Egg Harbor Township, Triton, ACIT, Atlantic County Institute of Technology, also known as Atlantic Tech, and Deptford. Favorite sleeper, who you got?
Favorite, I'll go Cherry Hill East. Sleeper, I'll go Egg Harbor Township. I think that they are a very, very, very close second because they took a very huge leap last year under Rob Davis. They're always one of the teams that has numbers roster-wise, but this year they're kind of pairing the roster size with the size and the talent and everything. They're kind of gelling things together, and I think, having Steve Scanlon on staff is a very huge part of that, who, like you mentioned before, led Clearview to multiple sectional title appearances.
Yeah, I'd go Cherry Hill East as the favorite as well, 9-1 last year. One of their best seasons in recent memory. They got into the playoffs, something to build on, and everyone's chasing them at this point. For my sleeper, I'm going to go with Bridgeton, return a lot of skill guys. First playoff appearance in several years. I think they're a team that could contend to win this division. As we said, I don't know if the second place team is a sleeper, but in this criteria, they qualify as a sleeper, being that they've also made strides over the years. I think that's a team that could win the division. Moving on, we have the National Division, Burlington City, Bordentown, Riverside, Pemberton, and Maple Shade.
And
favorite
Florence.
and sleeper, and Florence.
Favorite, I'll go Bordentown. I'll go Bordentown. Had a really good year last year, 7-3. Actually, I'm sorry, no. I'm going to switch my pick. Riverside. I'm going to go with Riverside. They bring a lot back. They got their first ever playoff win last year. They had a playoff berth in the 2000s, but they couldn't get it done. But last year they got the first ever playoff win, technicality, since the playoffs started. Sleeper, I'll go Bordentown because they had a really good year last year. Ended up, I think, getting snubbed out of the playoffs. I think PowerPoints-wise or whatever the criteria was. I think they kind of fell short like a point or two. But I'll say the favorite is Riverside and sleeper is Bordentown.
This is a division where there's a few different teams that could come out on top. For my favorite, I'll go with Burlington City. They returned most of the roster last year that qualified for the Central Jersey Group 1 playoffs. And when I say they returned most of that roster, it's 10 starters back on defense. And this is a team that competed in the 7-on-7 tournament. They're always going to be athletic. They got the speed. They got the skill guys. I'll take them as the favorite. For my sleeper, I'll go with Bordentown, 7-3. I don't know how much of a sleeper you qualify that as, but this is a team that is going to be very strong running the ball, and I think they're a sleeper in this division. Moving on, we have the Patriot Division, Camden Catholic, Paulsboro, West Deptford, Pennsville, Overbrook, Audubon, Collingswood. This is very interesting. Paulsboro and West Deptford, 2 programs that traditionally have been strong and have struggled in recent years. I mean, not last year. Paulsboro 8-3 in their 3rd year under Kevin Harvey, and then West Deptford's 2nd year under John Emmel. They added Wayne Gilliam to the staff from Camden Catholic, a team that's 5-5. And I know Emmel has stated that he thinks his team is getting back to where West Deptford football was a couple years ago when they were a traditional power in South Jersey Group 2. So, and that I mentioned Pennsville, Overbrook, Audubon, and Collingswood in this division as well. I couldn't remember if I mentioned that. Got getting caught up there on 2 rivals, who we have in 2 traditional rivals we have in the same division. You don't see that often anymore, and both expected to be very good this year. Who's the favorite? Who's the sleeper?
I'll go favorite. I'll go Paulsboro. Just because Camden Catholic lost a lot when Gilliam, I think resigned. I think is technically the word for it. Everyone left. Everyone jumped ship. We have a guy like that who's a player's coach, makes you kind of want to be there, coaches you the right way. and you kind of get rid of him. You get rid of the guy that you liked. It's just like you're not going to keep those guys there. So I think Paulsboro, they do return a lot as well, and I think Kevin Harvey's kind of finding his footing as the head coach there. I mean, those are just huge shoes to fill coming after the legendary coach Glenn Howard.
I'm gonna go with West Effort, and Emma will like that response. We have plenty of football conversations. We like to bust each other's chops sometimes over different football things and whatnot. So at least he'll like that answer. But I think I would take them as the favorite right now. As previously mentioned, they feel they're getting back to where they were. They return a lot. They were in a lot of close games last year. It's sort of like how we mentioned some other teams earlier, like Haddonfield and whatnot, where you've seen there was times where, okay, you kind of, let one get away from them or whatnot. And now with another year of experience, that allows you that opportunity to kind of redeem that and learn from those situations. I'll take West Everett as the favorite. Sleeper, I'll go with Collingswood here. Team that returns 3 rushing leaders, John Antrilli at quarterback. I know they bring back a lot. And I think they're a team in a division that's kind of wide open like this, a team that could, maybe shock some people or, surprise some people and make some noise.
Yeah, my sleeper, I forgot to pick one. I'd say both my sleepers are West Effort and Collingswood, just because based off the fact that, West Effort.
We're picking 2 now?
All right. All right.
I love you some good options here.
There are some good options for a sleeper here. I'll go with West Effort. Just because, the staff that they have with Emil. Emil's always going to have his guys ready. You add Wayne Gilliam to that staff as well. They're always the wing tees usually a hard offensive stop for most teams as well. West Effort's always physical. They're always usually pretty decently sized. And like you said, Emil's a very smart guy. So if he thinks that they're possibly getting back to that level that they were under Coach Morrell and Coach Folsom, then, I'd like to see, them kind of back that up there.
I was a little surprised you took my pick for favorite and used it as a sleeper, but hey, it fits the criteria. They were 5-5 last year, 3rd place in division. But I thought maybe we'd hear a little Camden Catholic with first-year coach John Martino, who's a respected assistant I know he's at Bishop Eustace, Lenape, a couple other stops, and they're building something there. Maybe even Pennsville, first playoff win since 2016. I thought maybe you were throwing me a little curveball, but you got
it's
valid
just,
answer
with
either
Camden
way.
Catholic, they just lost too much. They lost too much when without Gilliam there, and I'd like to see them prove me wrong. I would like to see them prove me wrong, just for the sake of making sure that they're always that last year wasn't just a one-off thing, and that they kind of are going in the right direction program-wise.
Yeah, I have to agree with the Camden Catholic situation. It's a little bit different because they did lose a bunch of key players, so that's always hard. We don't know what's coming in, but we do know what went out. So from that standpoint, it would be kind of hard to pick them as a sleeper. Kind of with you on that, Chris.
I agree, obviously. You kind of piggybacked off the point there.
So we got 2 more divisions here. We got the West Jersey Football League Rural Division and the United Division. Rural Division, we have Pittman, Haddon Township, Clayton, Gateway, Sterling, Gloucester Catholic, and Mastery Charter. Favorite and sleeper.
Favorite, I'll go with Pittman. They usually return a decent amount, and their biggest thing the past couple of years was they kind of picked apart from Clearview's roster. So they have a little bit of more size to them than a traditional Group 1 has, just because of the fact of Clearview and Pittman are kind of close, and they were able to kind of, I guess, pick from the roster that kind of disbanded there over in Mullica Hill. Sleeper, I'll go with Haddon Township. They returned a good amount. They had their first playoff berth since 2019 last year under Zach Dayton, which was also Zach Dayton's first year as well, too, there. And they also return a lot. They're always usually pretty athletic for a Group 1. And like I said, a wing tee is usually a hard offense for teams that kind of, I guess, key in on and make, key stops.
Yeah, I agree with the favorite there. Pittman, 8-2 a year ago. Quarterback Dean Collum is a key returning piece. And as you said, a lot of size there for a Group 1 school. For my sleeper, I'll go with Gateway, 5-5 last year. They returned key players. I think that's a team that could be in the hunt for a division title, or at least, try to be that spoiler in that sleeper role. So I'll go with Gateway as my sleeper there. And in the United Division, we have Holy Cross Prep. We have Kip Cooper, Norcross Academy, Bishop Eustace, Buna, and Palmyra. And am I missing anything else
Wildwood
here?
and Lindenwald.
Wildwood and Lindenwald. All right. Ran off the sheet here. Had it on the back, it looks like. So favorite and sleeper.
Favorite, I'll go with Holy Cross. We saw them last year. They had a pretty good showing last year. I forget what game it was that you were at.
I saw them last year against Riverside.
Yeah, that was. I think they won that one, correct? I'm pretty sure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, they always have a lot of guys that are athletic on the outside. It's the O line, this trench situation. They'll figure it out. But quarterback and skill wise, they'll have it there. They'll have it there.
Yeah, that game against Riverside, I seen, was actually a great game. It came down to the last play. They won that game. I believe they remained undefeated at the time. They're led by T.J. Madera, buddy of mine, and his dad, Tom Madera, who won a state championship at Holy Cross back in the day and coached at Berlin Township for several years, is helping him out again on the sidelines. So it's a cool story that we actually covered last year. I wrote about last year. So it's always cool seeing those guys on the sideline, father and son coaching together. It's a pretty neat story, and they love being out there together. I'd roll with them as the favorite as well. 9-2, a season to go. They're the team to beat right now. Sleeper, who you got as a sleeper?
So if we want to go traditional sleeper, I'll go Eustis. They return a good amount. Roman Faola, D2 baseball all-star on their center. I think this is his second or third season as a starter there. Delano Mann, very athletic. You see him on the hardwood as well, basketball court. Sal Rocabato's kind of got that program turning around in the right direction. And they're also a school that, resource-wise, they can kind of give the coaches what they need to kind of put them over the hump. But I also would rule out Kip as well.
I think I'd go with Buna here. Second year under Kyle Klein. This is a program that a couple years ago was in the sectional championship hunt and whatnot. And I know they're very excited for this upcoming season, and they're looking forward to it based on what they've been building. I mean, they're thrilled to just keep getting better each and every day. I know that sounds cliche, but I know this program is looking forward to the future and whatnot. So that wraps up our West Jersey Football League divisional preview. Before we go, we just want to, recommend that you check us out on Instagram at D2 Sports Network, d2sportsnetwork.com. Check out our amazing stories that we have, features, game recaps, which also includes tremendous videography and photography from our talented photographers and videographers. And I know our first episode today of By the Numbers, a little lengthy here. We had to, go through some preliminary stuff. It's like, when you go to the doctor for the first time, you got to fill out all the paperwork, or, you start college and you got to take all the general ed courses with all the stuff you already know and whatnot. So we were able to, check some boxes today, get some stuff out the way, get you guys in tune with South Jersey football, get you informed for the season coming up.
Yep.
But I think we're looking forward to a great season on a new show here, By the Numbers. As I said, going forward, we'll be bringing you a lot of creative insight and whatnot, both from me, Chris here. We got Rick over here giving, great insight, doing his thing, working all the magic behind the scenes. So we thank you guys for joining us for the first show. We look forward to seeing you next time, and enjoy the first week of football.